All right, I think we can get started. Thank you so much for waiting for us. We were having some good conversation backstage. My name is Hannah Steinwig. I'm on Rivian's policy team. Governor McMaster, Governor Pritzker, welcome to Texas. Welcome to South by Southwest. This is my home state, and it is an honor to have you here. I hope you're able to walk up and down South Congress. We built a off-roading route downtown, so hopefully you can hop in a Rivian and go off-roading in the middle of Austin after this.
I'm ready.
Okay, great. Texas and South Carolina and Illinois, they all have something in common. They all manufacture electric trucks, and they're made by all-American companies, which is something quite unique right now. They also all three play a critical role in advancing new energy technologies. And I'm very excited for this bipartisan conversation. Before we dive in, I'd love to introduce you to the audience. Today we're joined by Governor McMaster, South Carolina's longest serving governor in the Palmetto State. I would like to acknowledge the wildfires you all just experienced. Hopefully everything is safe now, and please let Rivian know if there's anything we can do.
Yes.
And then we're also joined by Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, Rivian's home to our manufacturing site, which hopefully we will get into. Thank you so much for being here. As an aside, we will be taking questions at the end. All right. We're going to start off with a couple quick-fire questions. The first one, what was your first car?
My first car was a Mazda 626. Nobody here remembers those, but it was a kind of a small four-door vehicle, very, very uncool. But I was about 18 years old, and that was the perfect car because I could stuff as many kids in it as possible and get into trouble.
Yep, exactly. What do you drive now?
Well, all right. Other than I get, as you can imagine, as governor,
Do you drive?
They don't let me drive in Illinois much. But actually, maybe it will surprise you, or not. But our family vehicle is a Rivian R1T. No special deals, by the way. I had to pay full price, and just want to make sure everybody, the press hears that, and yeah.
Good to hear. Yes, thank you for the clarification. Governor McMaster, what was your first car?
My first car was a 1970 red Audi, bright red, 4-on-the-floor leather seats, and I drove up to Washington, D.C. for my first job after law school, and I was an absolute sack of hell so the whole time. And I love that car.
Do you have names for your cars? I feel like we all name our cars growing up. No? Yeah. Okay, the next question. Describe your state in 3 words.
Only 3,
Yeah,
or
only 3. You only get 3.
not less than 3, but 3.
Exactly 3. Mm-hmm.
The greatest state.
That's it.
That's 3.
I'll use 3 words to describe the people of our state, which is kind, decent, and honest.
Yes, please. Those are good words. Those are very good. We have a phrase that has 3 words: the best place on earth to live, work, and raise a family. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's dive into the topic at hand to set the stage on kind of where we are in the EV market from 2010 to 2019, so really the first decade of the modern EV era. There were 1.5 million electric vehicles sold. In 2024 alone, there was more than 1.5 million electric vehicles sold. So bottom line, the industry is growing very, very fast. Although not as fast as Europe and Asia, EV sales are only about 9% in the United States compared to closer to 50% in China. However, all of the problems that are kind of standing in the way of that 9% to the 50% are really unique opportunities for states like Illinois and South Carolina. Governor McMaster, You were the first governor in the country to host an EV summit in Greenville, South Carolina in 2022. What motivated you to host a summit on this topic, and what has changed since then?
Well, we saw it coming. Sometimes if you look enough, you can see what's getting ready to happen. And there's a lot of interest around the world. And also there'd been interest in EVs way back in the 90s with the big three. It didn't work out. And then there was more in the 2007, 8, and 9 when the government was putting some money into it. And then Tesla came along, and Tesla had gotten one of those. I think it was Alone, they and a couple of others. But it started getting a whole lot of interest, and people liked them. So we thought, well, let's open the door, be sure that we're ready to allow this market to grow in South Carolina. Because we had a great experience with BMW as their first plant in America. It's the most productive plant in the world. And I think they produce about, how many, 450,000 a year. It's about one every minute and just a few seconds. You ought to see that plant. But that changed everything when they came in. And you know how it came in? BMW was looking for a place to go. And Governor Carroll Campbell was governor then. And they came by South Carolina. And they each had all their aides and everything, had 15 or 20 people. They met meeting up at the State House and all these other places. And they couldn't get anywhere. There were just too many details, too many distractions. So Governor Campbell, and I think it was Mr. Eberhart, I think. Mr. Lipsa is the boss now, but Eberhart was, I think that was who it was, in 1992. And they went to the governor's mansion and went to the pool house and sat by the pool, just those two men, and each had somebody with them. You understand how it works. And in just a few minutes, and probably a cocktail, they scratched out a couple of lines on a cocktail napkin and shook hands. And that was the deal. They started work right then. In fact, I think it was Mr. Eberhart referred to South Carolina as a handshake state. And I've heard that twice since, in the 25th and the 30th anniversary. And the last being Mr. Lipsa said, South Carolina's a handshake state. He said, I'd rather have your hand in mine and your word than a signed contract. So that's how that started, with the experience of BMW. When they came in, we had no automotive support, nothing. Now we have over 500 or 600 different companies that have come in to support that. BMW now, they are really humming. And others, I think, when you see a company come in and do something new and it works, people pay attention. And it's like a little magnet going through a bunch of filings. They all aggregate on it and make it stronger and stronger. And so with that big help to our reputation, we are with three things, our economic base is manufacturing, primarily automotive, and agriculture.
You're the state's largest exporter of vehicles, correct?
Finished
tires?
Vehicles and also tires.
And tires.
We've got tires all over the place. And we have a port. And so I think about half of what BMW makes is exported. But it worked, and we're having more and more come in.
That's great. You're part of the battery belt. When I pulled up a map of kind of where all these jobs are going, it just lights up in the middle of the country. Illinois is part of that. Governor Pritzker, in 2019, CNBC published a list and named Illinois 30th as a best place to do business. And about 5-6 years after that, you're number 15. So you jumped 15 spots in a very short amount of time. What role did manufacturing play in that jump? And also, if you have any kind of real life stories of how that's affecting people's lives.
Yep. So we have a long history in Illinois of being manufacturing. So, I mean, people used to call the Midwest the Rust Belt for a reason. And manufacturing and automobile manufacturing, I might add, was a part of that. We have about 600,000 people employed in manufacturing in the state of Illinois. Henry Ford built one of his very first plants in Chicago. This is almost 100 years ago. And that plant, that location is still there, and it obviously has grown quite a lot. And so Ford is a manufacturer in our state. And Stellantis, and we have a lot of auto suppliers that are in Illinois. But that's not the only, in fact, Illinois is kind of unusual. There's no industry that's more than 14% of our economy, no industry. So that means that we're quite a diversified economy. Meanwhile, manufacturing, hugely important, and as the EV revolution has come about, actually I'll tell you quick story relevant to Rivian, that back in 2016, I'll probably get this a little wrong, but back in 2016, a young guy showed up and looked at a factory that had been abandoned by Mitsubishi. They had decided they didn't want to manufacture in the United States anymore. And he looked at this factory. He had a brand new electric vehicle company that he had started. They hadn't started any major production yet. And he bought this Mitsubishi plant, had 27 employees.
Crazy decision.
Yeah, crazy. In Normal, Illinois, 27 employees. So, but in 2018, there were 27 employees. Today, there are 8,000 employees in that factory. It's the Rivian factory in Normal. And it's been hugely successful. And it really was an anchor for what we've built in Illinois as the electric vehicle industry. Lots of suppliers that are in Illinois, lots of the old kind of combustion engine suppliers that have changed their products to be appropriate for electric vehicles. And then we've attracted a bunch of companies as well. But the way that we have grown as a state is we've grown our manufacturing base, for sure. That's been hugely important. But also, and this is really important for a state that has been an old line industrial state, is focusing on new technologies, electric vehicles being one of them, but also quantum and AI. These are areas where, in biotechnology, where we can grow at a much faster rate as a state when we invest in those things, and we have, and we are doing better as a state. So those are things that have put us on the map and made us, taken us in CNBC's ranking from 30th to 15th. As far as I'm concerned, that's not nearly good enough. We ought to be in the top 10, indeed in the top 5, and that's where we're headed.
You are the 5th largest economy in the state, so you're in the top 5 there.
We're the 5th largest economy in the country, the 18th largest in the world if we were an independent country, which we've on occasion contemplated.
Something that you both have created in your state is the EV industry. It's very fragmented. You have suppliers across the world. You might assemble a car in one state. It'll be designed in Europe. The critical minerals for the battery will be from another country. And what you're both doing is really consolidating that. The EV sector in your state, whether that be AI, you're about to go do a quantum and AI panel. I hear you're a little bit of a sci-fi nerd. And with Redwood Materials in your state, I mean, when you reduce the logistics required to manufacture an electric vehicle, it helps the businesses. It also helps the states, grow the workforce. Are you seeing the impact of consolidating the industry in your state?
Oh yeah, I might have mentioned we had that EV summit in October of 2022 to open the door, let everybody know we're open for business, and we put together a group for a one-stop shop. And apparently a lot of people paid attention to that. And we've had great experience bringing others in, but we've done other things. I know JB with the technology, innovation and technology hub, y'all are doing, what is it y'all are doing? They're doing medicine. I'll come.
Are you talking about our quantum park, or you mean the?
You're doing something with medicine.
Yeah, Chan Zuckerberg BioHub. I mean, that's
BioHub.
Yeah.
We chose power. We chose electric power because we know we're going to need power for every bit of this. And we got to have some place nuclear power is what we are emphasizing, although we have all parts. But you wanted to hear a story. I got one for you about that technology hub. Y'all might not know the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, U.S. Department of Commerce had a program where they would go provide grants, money for innovation and technology hubs. There could be 12 of them. That's all in the country. There were about 400 submissions from all the states. And y'all put in at least, I don't know how many, we put in.
We got 2 of them.
You got 2? Yeah, that was a good thing. So we decided we'd do power. And this is how, I don't know how you worked yours, but this is what we did. We went up to Washington, we took a group and we met a delegation. And also later we found out that we would be one of 30. Now this is important because it's 40 to 50 or 60 million dollars a year. And we want to have power, how to produce it, how to transmit it, and all that sort of stuff, how to be more efficient. So then we got a call from Secretary Gina Raimondo, who used to be the governor of Rhode Island. JB knows her, so do I. And she said that we were under consideration to be one of them. And so we talked, and we had a 3-way conference, 4 ways. She was on her phone in Washington, I was on mine in Columbia. Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, was on his in Washington, and Congressman Jim Clyburn was on his in Washington. So we got to talking, and we got to talking, explaining why we ought to be selected. And at the end of the conversation, maybe 15 minutes or so, Lindsey started cutting up as he usually does when he's not fussing. He was cutting up, friendly guy. And she said at the end, she said, gentlemen, this is the first time since I've been in this office that I've had a bipartisan conversation. And of course, that's the way we do it. And that works every single time. There's some folks don't do that. But when you got a good idea and you're willing to bring everybody to the forefront and work on it, you can get a whole lot of things done.
Speaking of bipartisanship, Mike Murphy is doing fantastic work at the EV Politics Project, and he recently came out with a poll detailing or outlining that over 50% of the country thinks that EVs are for people that think differently than they do. Now, I don't know of another utilitarian product that everyone buys or most people own that can be politicized. What do you think that people can agree on when it comes to electrification?
My perspective is that they become interested when they understand total cost of ownership for an EV is lower than it is for an ICE vehicle. And so, as the cost of an EV has come down, right? Because let's face it, it was $75,000 or $100,000, and we're starting to see $45,000 and lower. And it's very important that it's affordable up front, but total cost of ownership over time, I mean, the cost of gasoline, far outpaces the cost of charging your vehicle. So that's one thing. I think another thing, and again, what brings people together is lower cost and performance. And so the other, range anxiety, let's face it, is still an issue, although obviously much easier now to charge your vehicle every 200 miles or 150 miles, 50 miles if we actually get the NEVI dollars put to work across the country that President Biden got put in place. So that, the idea that you can go on a long trip in your vehicle, not worry about running out of power, I think that again, when I think about what ultimately is going to get, let's say, the people who are reluctant to buy and invest in and be part of the EV revolution, it's affordability and the understanding, frankly, these cars are cooler. They just are. Everybody I know that buys a Rivian, thinks that it is the coolest car they've ever had. And I think that's true for a lot of the electric vehicles that are coming out. And just being able to control so much from the cockpit, so to speak. And then, of course, what's coming, which is driverless vehicles, or the ability anyway to not have to drive your own vehicle. Maybe you're in the driver's seat and not worry. That is, there's going to be no reason why people don't choose an electric vehicle going forward.
I almost wish I could put people in a car and they don't know which technology they're driving, and they have to blind decide which car to drive. And I think they would mostly choose electric vehicles.
But again, affordability, big deal, and we're there. I mean, we're like on the verge of this really being available to everybody at a price point that makes sense for them. And the total cost of ownership argument, which I know is hard to get across to consumers sometimes, because you have to talk about, well, if you own your vehicle for 2 or 3 years, how much gas would you put in it for the number of miles that, and so what's the cost of electricity versus the cost of gasoline? I think people will choose that if they really understand it well. And I guess I'll say, I know, people, you were talking about nuclear power. It's important. We all are looking at expanding electricity availability and the amount of production that we've got in each of our states. Illinois is somewhat at an advantage. We actually have the most nuclear power of any state in the country. About more than 50% of the electricity that we produce in the state comes from nuclear power. So, and that's something, we're open to it. Our state's obviously used to it. It's not an issue for us going forward to expand that. And we're looking at all renewable and clean energy as possibilities. And a lot is coming online. So I think that's going to help a lot as we also build out charging capability across the state.
Yeah, these vehicles just get cleaner over time once we transition to alternative forms of energy. Governor McMaster, do you have anything to say about what we can agree on with?
I do. You say you're about 50%. We're at 60% in South Carolina, nuclear power. Now, that's a percentage. It's not as much as Illinois. The hub.
We export energy from Illinois.
We do too.
We export more energy from Illinois.
Yeah, I believe that.
We could do this all day, yeah.
The hub I was thinking is AFAB Tech Hub, Advanced Biochemistry.
IFAB, and yeah.
That's terrific. I'm glad you're doing that and we're doing this, and together we'll get something done.
Excellent.
But on that question, it's just a matter of time. JB has mentioned all the different statistics and the numbers, but if you like a vehicle, it makes you happy and makes you comfortable, then that's the answer to that. And it just takes a little bit of time. The first time I sat in an EV, it wasn't a Rivian, it was a Tesla, and I'd never been in one before. And so I went and fell up. The legislature had one. Want to take a ride? And I said, sure. And like JB, I haven't driven a vehicle. Neither has we don't own any. I haven't had one in 8 years. And so anyway, I got in the front seat, which is against our security rules. I had a new agent sitting in the back. And we went a couple of blocks out on a pretty clear street for a couple of blocks. And he said, watch this, and stepped on that pedal. And it threw me in the back of that seat and scared me to death. I was yelling, my guy was yelling, and the man driving was grinning, and I swear I thought we were running into the car and stopped 2 blocks away.
Wait till you walk down the street and try Rivian.
Oh, yeah?
Actually, my son, who's now 20, learned to drive on a Rivian. So I think, it's a new era when, kids are learning to drive on an electric vehicle, and especially on a great one.
Here's one more thing. I know what, Scout has come to South Carolina. It's changed everything, and there'll be more. They have an idea. They're going to have of course, it's all electric. Truck, what is it? The Traveler and the Terror, the truck and the SUV. But they're going to have a small gas engine, small. I don't know if you have to get it, but you can. It runs a little generator and extends the mileage by 150 miles. I don't know if that's necessary because it's about 350 miles, I think, or something like that on typically. And that's about as much as you can get on a tank of gas anyway. So I think some of these concerns about running out of electricity in the middle of nowhere will evaporate before long. But something like that, other ideas, and of course more charging stations, faster charging stations, all those, that's going to come around. And this is we're looking at the future, and it's coming. There'd be some people that want a gas vehicle forever, and that's all right. Particularly, we got NASCAR at the Darlington racetrack in South Carolina. I don't know what it's going to sound like when they're running around the track and they don't make any noise. But
maybe you should host a all-electric NASCAR race.
I don't know if the fans would like that. I think part of it is that noise.
Have to put some fake noise in there,
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking a little bit about consumer demand and what consumers want, we're going to go a little bit more macro. Governor McMaster, you were just appointed to the Council of Governors. This council was put together by Trump appointees, President Trump appointees, Republican and Democrat governors from across the country. One of the focus areas of this council is national security. Can you explain to the audience and to us a little bit the relationship or the link between national security and electric vehicles?
Yes, but I was appointed by President Biden for this council before. So I might be the only guy in the world that's been on 2 in a row just like that.
You must have done a great job.
I don't know if I did or not. I did the best I could with what I got, but the electric vehicles themselves will play a role because they're powerful, as I mentioned. And we're not scared of nuclear power anymore. We know we've had nuclear submarines. They go underwater for, 50 years or something like that and come up one time if they have to. But this is advanced manufacturing. This is the epitome of advanced manufacturing. And that's one thing. Brain power is what's going to make this country safe. That's why we have to educate people. Got to start young, keep them safe, get them educated, and get them into the workforce, get them thinking. But as I see the EV, the whole EV idea of more electric, more sophistication, more robots, all of these kind of things, it has an impact on everything else we do, because as we get the people learning how to do these things, thinking, sophisticated, it translates into everything else we do, which is defense technology, various kinds of weapons, but also just the manufacturing. You can't have a strong country unless you have a strong manufacturing base, and I think that the EV movement, I guess you'd call it, is the beginning of a lot more than just electric vehicles, and it'll make us, as you have to be educated, you have to be thinking, you have to be innovative. That's what these technology hubs are for. That makes us stronger as a country.
I think there's the other national security angle, I think, on electric vehicles is that, I mean, there are two things. One is having the availability of powering your vehicles in the United States on electricity and not just on oil is beneficial, from thinking about the future of, eventually we are going to start running short on oil in the world. And so making sure we have the availability and focus on electric vehicles, one thing. I think the other is, honestly, there is a national security angle on the issue of climate change. And that is a threat to our country. And I think electrification is one of the many endeavors that we have to be focused on to make sure that this isn't as big a threat to the United States as I think it will be to other countries.
So right now China produces about 60% of the world's electric cars, 80% of the batteries that power them. And then Representative, oh my gosh, what was his name? Whitman of Virginia. He's part of the select committee on the Chinese Communist Party. He was saying that the United States was walking while China was running in relationship to the development of the EV market. Is the United States walking? And if so, how can we speed up that walk?
Well, they got a lot more people than we do. They have a different kind of, what are they now, 1.2 billion? We're at 360 something million, and China is even more than that. That's a lot of people, and there's a lot of brain power in there as well. But I think we are, the freedoms that we have and the United States Constitution is, besides the Bible and the Declaration of Independence, the best documents that ever been written, and that protects our freedoms. Ultimately, the coercion of communism and of that system of government cannot win out in the end, because people have to be free to think and to innovate. But what they are doing with the power that they have is they flooding the markets, killing industries here. They are, I think, trying to buy up or control all the lithium that's out there. The prices, you got to have lithium, I believe, for these kind of batteries, as well as some other precious metals. The prices are dropping so that some of the companies that are trying to mine it and trying to do it are about to go out of business. But they are thinking in long term, and are thinking, I believe, in terms of power, political power, military power. And that's the problem. But again, the way around that is you just have to outthink it. And that's why this EV and these other high-tech ideas and directions are the things that will enable us to be safe and prosperous.
Look, China is an aggressive military competitor. They're an aggressive economic competitor. And on the economic front, and speaking of electrification, they got ahead of us. They just got ahead of us. And when you look at wind turbines and solar panels and electric vehicles, we did not move aggressively, and they did. And so we are facing a real challenge because we do need to be a leader. Solar energy in particular, if we are not producing solar panels in the United States and developing better technology in the United States, that is an enormous detriment to the future of our country. So I worry a lot because one of the things that over the last 4 years happened was significant investments by the federal government, incentives by the federal government in, our catching up and becoming a leader again. And I worry that, I hope we're going to continue to do that. I think it's hugely important. Again, manufacturing in the United States by engineers who are developing those products in the United States has to happen. And I think China's has been eating our lunch, so to speak, on that front, and we've just got to make sure that we continue to focus. We need to beat them in every category, but this is just, since we're on the subject of EVs and clean energy, this is one area where we need to hyper-focus. We need federal government help to do it. The state governments are doing things to incentivize it as well, but we can't do it nearly as well because it's an international problem, and you need the federal government to step up.
On that part, one you made me think something. Just imagine this for a moment, the world without the United States. What would be happening? Who would be stopping these aggressors? Because there are plenty of them that would run all over everybody else if they got a chance. We are living in the right place, and we have an obligation, I think, and an opportunity to make the world safe. There's a story in one of the reserves in Africa someplace where the bull elephant died of the herd, and all the young bucks started running amok, and they were fighting and knocking down trees and running through villages and all that sort of stuff. And those in charge said, we got to do something. What are we going to do? You can't tie up an elephant. You can't build a fence. So they went to another larger herd and brought one of the big bulls from over there and put him in the middle of that crowd. Everything calmed down. That was the end of the riot. We're sort of facing something like that with these people because they don't value human life like we do.
Yeah, I think the worry is palpable. I think you felt that and are feeling that from both administrations. And then the beginning of this panel referencing the scale of this problem to go all electric. It's enormous and it's complicated. But again, they are opportunities, and I think. Yes, China has a lot more people to support this industry. That just means that we need to invest and train a workforce to support not just manufacturing, but the other like R&D related to this technology. I know that at the SAFE Summit, Governor McMaster, you referenced that South Carolina has maybe the best or one of the best technical college systems in the country. I know also Illinois, you passed the CEJA Act, which infuses a lot of capital into those workforce development programs. Can you tell us just a little bit about the impact that those investments are making? And also, are these actually kind of generationally like impactful, or can these jobs actually build long-term wealth?
Yeah, we made significant investments over the last 6 years in our education system broadly, with a focus on electric vehicles, on advanced manufacturing, on areas that are around electrification, not to mention quantum and AI. But we have the third largest community college system in the nation in Illinois, 48 community colleges. At 25 of them, we have programs that are focused on electric vehicles, on all of the jobs that are around, both on the development side as well as on the, everything up to, mechanics and working an assembly line in an electric vehicle arena. And in fact, we build for specific companies that come to Illinois. We build specific programs. I know South Carolina does something similar, that companies that want to come to Illinois and they need to make sure that we're doing workforce development focused on them. We will build that program specific to that company. I figure it's my job as governor to educate people to get a great job and to get a better job. And so that's an investment that I think people expect us to make as a state. And it's good for our economy. It's good for the people of the state when we make those investments. We also have some of the best universities in the entire world. University of Chicago, University of Illinois, Northwestern University, not to mention we have 12 public universities across the state. So and 5 R1 institutions, research institutions. Wow. So the ability to provide people with the skills that are necessary for the industries of the future, that's our job as a state, to deliver that. And it's our job to raise people up in our state who can, who have the skills necessary to get the best jobs and help build the best companies. We encourage people to start and build companies in our state. It's kind of what I did before I was in business, before I became governor, focused on working with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses and growing them. And I, as governor, I get to do even more of that because I'm working with really all businesses in our state.
He's right again.
Look at how much agreement is happening.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the bit. We are told that our tech system is the best in the country. And when former Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, every time he'd come to South Carolina, he would say that. I don't know if he says that to everybody. I don't think so, but he sure said that to us. But that's made an enormous difference to us. We started that. We have a mature system, and we've stuck with the knitting, stuck with the main thing, instead of teaching French literature and some other things that are very nice. But you don't need that for these types of jobs. Well, it started. We still have brick masonry and electrical and all that sort of stuff. But we have developed into the things necessary for this kind of industry and this kind of world. Let me just, maybe y'all know what some of these things are. We have in cybersecurity, about protecting network systems and data form, cyber threats, training and designing, implementing and managing network infrastructures, software development, instruction in programming languages, software engineering principles and application developments, mechatronics, combining mechanical, electrical, and computer engineering to design and maintain automated system, robotics technology, advanced manufacturing for manufacturing processes, including CNC, machine additive manufacturing and quality assurance, health information management, medical laboratory technology, aviation and science. It goes on and on. Very high tech. I know I wouldn't have any idea what a lot of these things are, but people do. And what has happened in World War II with the GI Bill and all that, everybody had to get a college education. Not just college education, but a 4-year college education. That was the Bible for years. Well, that's changed now. You don't need 4 years. You can go to one of these schools, and we have 16 in the state, and you can learn how to do things that you can put to immediate use, and you can start off way higher a lot of times than your parents. You can get a diploma or a certificate, get married, have children, get a job, all that stuff a lot quicker than you used to. And we have developed a 4-year course in advanced manufacturing, a degree where you can get a 4-year degree in some of these schools, and that allows you to go into management. I don't know if they do that everywhere, but we do that. But this is one thing that we do is we have something called Ready SC, SC meaning South Carolina, where if you have a plant anywhere in the country, even in Illinois, and all around the world anywhere, and you are interested in coming to South Carolina, we will send a team for free to study your plant, study your processes, and come back and, just like you, develop a course, curriculum to support that, and it is for free. And we have, I guess since I've been governor, since 2017, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars right smack in to that technical college system. And we have, for high demand jobs, if you have a company and you need something right now and there's something that you can't find anywhere, but you have a high demand for it, there's no tuition. We'll give them a scholarship and they can come. And since we've been doing that, coincidentally, we've had the best years we've ever had in South Carolina. We've had record investment for the last 3 going on 4 years now, billions of dollars more than ever before.
I want to endorse Ready SC, by the way. We've looked at it in Illinois, and there are aspects of that we're using to develop, better our system. So, I mean, you've done really a great job of surrounding the companies with the workforce development that they need, and it's precisely, there are things that we needed to kind of turn up the dial on.
That's right.
And so here's more bipartisanship.
More agreement. I love it.
Yeah, you're doing a great job with that, and we're trying to make sure that we're doing that as well.
I know that people often turn to the federal government in moments of economic downturn for reassurance and for direction on how we get back to a more prosperous position. But really, states have such a huge role, huge influence in turning that ship, and both of you have done that in your states. I wish we had more time to chat. We are going to turn to questions in the audience. So there is a mic right there, and yeah, please.
Okay, here.
State representative in Ohio. I represent Toledo, Ohio, where I have 2 automotive industries in my district. One's a GM plant where they turned a transmission plant into an EV part plant. And I have Stellantis Jeep, so Toledo Jeep, where they're going to build the plug-in hybrid Gladiator. And then there was a battery plant that was built just down the street. Adjacent to my district are 2 oil refineries. So we are seeing those competing industries of, hey, we need to build up our automotive plants and our EV industry in Toledo, but we also have these oil refineries who are like, whoa, 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 we're going too fast. So governors, how have you dealt with these competing industries and priorities? Because I agree with Governor Pritzker and the governors up here that we need to ramp up our EV industries, especially if we want to innovate, and how important it is in Toledo. But I also want to make sure that we protect people's jobs, especially union jobs, in the oil refineries. So how do you do those?
Carefully. No, I mean, I really do mean that, though, and that you know, we passed the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act in my state in 2021, and it's a carrots, not stick approach to doing, you know, to the transition that we're all going through. We've got a lot of jobs also in oil refineries in Illinois. We actually we import oil from Canada at now a higher price as of today. But we import oil from Canada and refine it in Illinois. But we also, as you know, we've made significant investments in moving toward electrification and fighting climate change. Look, it's going to take a number of years for this transition to take place. But the most important thing is we're leading people, I think, in the right direction so that we can address climate change. People are making changes. The development of solar in my state has been like off the charts. Our whole renewable energy arena was 7.5% of electricity production in Illinois when I took office. It's now almost triple that, or it's coming up on triple that. And because we've, again, incentivized wind and solar, and we're seeing a lot of development in that arena. And then the coal plants in my state, we're already ramping down, and we're not pushing them off the cliff. We're just, not rescuing them. They are going to go out of business, and that's, we can project that and see that. It is, just to be clear, it is uneconomic to run a coal plant anymore, which is a good thing for all of our ability to breathe the air. So these are, I think it's a gradual endeavor. I think it should be done mostly with carrots, not sticks, though there are some things, as you know, that we should be maybe pushing a little bit on. But our economy, it's a delicate thing. We don't want people to lose jobs. We want people to transition as they have the ability to do that. And we want them to be, and we're doing that, providing job training in areas where we have traditional kind of fossil fuel related industries that will be transitioning. We're providing a lot of training. Those community colleges are actually providing clean energy job training to those folks so that they can move into maybe going to work for an EV manufacturer.
We don't have any oil refineries in South Carolina, and we're not going to have any. We're not going to have any drilling offshore either because of what's happened in other places. But our economy is based on three big categories. One is manufacturing, and actually the largest is agriculture, agribusiness, forestry and farming, and the other is tourism. And spilled oil and things like that are not compatible with any of that. But we've been heavily nuclear, as we mentioned, for years, and I think we're going to stay that way. We probably will not have any windmills. We don't want them off the coast, and there's really we're not in any great wind like in the Great Plains. We don't have those kind of winds. Solar, we've got a lot of solar. We do have we're fading out coal. We do have some gas plants, but ours is a very green state. And we are viewed as the convergence of commerce, conservation, and preservation. We've got a long history going way back to where the Spaniards came first in the 1500s, and they were run out by the French, and neither of them stayed for long. And then the Europeans started coming and bringing with them the Africans, and already the Native Americans had been there for thousands of years. And we've been through all hurricanes and fighting, been in every war since the beginning, signed the Declaration of Independence, all that sort of stuff. So we see us as having a paradise, having a jewel of a state. And it's our job not to mess it up, but to make it stronger. And again, the things we're talking about is it's brain power. You have to educate the people. You have to stimulate the people. You have to give them tools. Don't make them. Mandates are the things that typically cause those kind of dislocations. Let things happen at their own speed. Make the markets, keep them open. But you have to educate the young people. Have to do that. And if we don't do that, then we're not going to be able to outrun China or anybody else.
I'm going to quote you, your recent State of the State address. I do not think it's a coincidence that previous years of economic growth have followed our efforts to conserve, preserve, and display our unique gifts of nature's abundance. So I think that those things don't have to be in opposition, but they are quite complementary.
They're not in opposition at all, and that's what we've learned. You have three pillars, the way we see it. You have your economic growth, you have your educational excellence, and you have your environmental and cultural heritage. If any of those are lacking, the other two won't hold it up. And we've been preserving, we have a plan now, we have 20 million acres of land. We have a lot of water, we have mountains on one side and the oceans on the other. And we have historical markers all over the place. And what we wanted, and we have about 3 million of those 20 million acres that have some sort of conservation easement on it. And the people putting their land in these conservation easements, we passed a law where farmers, you have a family farm, if they will put a conservation easement on it so it stays a farm, then they get a tax break. And we're thinking, what are the right number of acres to be sure always go be green? Flying down here, going over some of those states, the green is just beautiful, and you have to have that for a variety of reasons. Is it half of the state? Is it 10 million acres? Maybe so. Is that too much? Is that not enough? But we have to preserve those sites and that cultural heritage. We got the Gullah heritage. We have the Native American. We have 9 Indian or Native American tribes in South Carolina. One, the Catawba, is nationally recognized. I think the king gave them 144,000 acres way back. They've lost a lot of that. We had to have a lawsuit because they owned Rock Hill, according to history. That was about 20 years ago. But that kind of preservation is something that has always got to be in mind. And what you said is right. It wasn't a coincidence. We think that keeping the lands, the waters, the forests, and all pure and clean with all the flora, fauna, the birds, and fishing and hunting and all that, bird watching, is essential to economic health. Is having a good plant, a good factory, a good place to work. And we know this, if you cannot find peace and happiness in the mountains and pine forests and tidal creeks and marshes in South Carolina, then you're going to have to wait till you get to heaven because you're not going to find it anywhere else.
Are you the chief tourism officer too?
I am indeed.
It makes me want to come.
I think we are at a time. It was such a pleasure talking with you today. I'm going to get one more question in there. Our CEO loves to remind us that we are so lucky to be living at this time of advanced technological innovation, also transitioning to alternative forms of energy. We are extreme optimists at Rivian. What are you optimistic about for the future, EV related or not?
I'll talk about my optimism for my state and maybe hope for the country and the world. But in particular, Illinois, we've gone through a lot of challenging times. We're a great state that has an amazing history, and you and I could go back and forth about all the greatness of each of our states. But one of the things we're really proud of is that we're the land of Abraham Lincoln. We're the land of Lincoln, and our history, our heritage is we didn't found the country, but we stopped slavery, and our state is the first state not just to ratify the end of slavery, the amendment to the Constitution, but also the first state that ratified the amendment to the Constitution that empowered women to vote in this country. So we have a great history of just standing up for individual rights, and believe that that's a hugely important part of what's livable and great about our state. We have a lot of other great livable things that I would point out. We have 20% of the world's fresh water in Illinois. You come to Illinois, and we've got we're on the Great Lakes. We have rivers running all the way through our state, aquifers under our state. So fresh water is, as you know, becoming a commodity that everybody's got to protect. That's something that we are doing, and I'm optimistic about our ability to maintain that. I think in a world where climate change is happening and where challenges of fresh water we see across the United States, not to mention across the world, it's one of the big advantages that we feel like we have in Illinois and in the Midwest. And then the last point I'll make is just, and I hope for these things for the world, for the country and for the world. That is that we got to protect people's individual rights in this country. It's what our country's founded on, And by the way, you don't have any individual rights if you don't have a clean environment, clean air, clean water. And again, that's something we pride ourselves on doing in the state of Illinois, and believe that it's important for us to focus on for the entire country, not to mention promoting it across the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Governor McMaster, do you have any?
I'm optimistic about the country. And I try to study the history of our country and others, and that document, the United States Constitution, it must be a miracle, because it never has been anything like. You have to study and see what's going on in other places to really realize that all of that, what JB is talking about, those rights, they're all in there. Everything is in there. And a lot of times we forget how tenuous all of that is. We've got to follow that Constitution, even if you don't like it. If you don't like it, then change it. But until you change it, you got to follow it. It reminds me of the story. I think it was who was it? Said somebody. It's President Reagan. Said somebody can come in here and under our freedoms can come into me and pound on my desk. Say, President Reagan, you're doing the worst job that anybody in the world has ever done as a chief executive. Anybody can do that in my country. And it was Gorbachev at the time said, well, they can do that in my country too. So you can do that in your country? I said, yeah, they can come and pound on my desk and say, President Reagan is doing the worst job of anybody in the world. We are different. They say, are we exceptional? This government is exceptional. There's never been anything like it in 6,000 years of government. And it makes a difference, and we have to preserve it. And this type of innovation and thinking and brain power is the way to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to require individuals and policymakers to come together in ways that we have not before. Thank you so much for your time. I know you have another panel to get to, so thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, we have one more.
How come I get this little tiny thing and JB got a microphone? Huh?
You paid more than I did.
I enjoyed it. We have to do it again.